Bill Baggett.
Good
Welcome.
evening. Sorry we took so long. Ladies and gentlemen, I live in South Hall Quarter. I grew up living on First Colonial Road, so I've seen Hilltop as it started out in the beginning. Gravel road. Same thing that the gentleman spoke earlier about the SeaTac in Virginia Beach Boulevard. Same thing. My problem now is, been reiterated, mentioned before, is that this is a medical corridor. It has to do, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in my townhouse and heard sirens just going and going and going, and look out the window, because I'm right directly across from Lincoln Park Elementary, and traffic stopped still. Where fire, rescue, ambulance, police, EMS, everybody has to go on the wrong side of the road just to try to get to where Aldi is proposing to build. Now, I have nothing against the church. I have nothing against Aldi's. In fact, I'm fully supportive of development as long as it's better and thought out. In fact, when I was growing up, my mother, father, my sister, and I attended. Back then, it was First Colonial Baptist Church. My sister and I were baptized there. So I can remember when that church was built. You know, I can't argue the point in my bank account versus their bank account where my zeros are at the beginning and theirs are all at the end. You know, I can't argue with that. And I'm not going to get into politics because God knows how long that would last. I can only beseech upon you, as you consider this, to think with your head and your heart and your gut, not any other part of your anatomy. That woman that spoke earlier tonight, she is one smart woman. I would give her a standing ovation and a glass of milk and brownies if that would make a difference. But again, I ask all of you, if any of you have used First Colonial Road, they say they don't open till 9. Well, what about the support group highlights? What about the support trucks, the construction, building? Then the support trucks that bring in the supplies and everything else. They're going to get there before 9, and they're going to probably be there after 9. At Lincoln Park, I went to the original one on Alaskan Road. So I've seen the changes. I understand all of it. I'm just a commoner, the little old, thank you, okay, sir. And I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much for coming
I
down.
hope I didn't hold you up too long.
Good job.
Oh, yeah. Now we'll have the next speaker also back.
My name is Mary Bixler. I live along the First Colonial Road corridor. Before I threw sticks and stones over at the Aldi discount grocery store, I decided to go ahead and visit a couple of them. I went to the Portsmouth one and the Chesapeake one. I was a little disappointed because it really isn't a delicious German food grocery store. What I realized was it contains a lot of knockoff foods that you see in major grocery stores as it is, with their label on it. On the back of most of the containers in it says it's distributed by Aldi, but it's out of the state of Illinois. So I don't know if it's being manufactured there or just what, but I was a little disappointed. So I see a container of what I thought was French's yellow mustard, identical. All the packaging in there is identical to our name brand foods that we see in all of our grocery stores, but it has the Aldi name on it. And I thought, well, that's really disappointing. So after looking at that and taking a look at the Portsmouth location, I see that it's not really near like a Hilltop shopping center. As a matter of fact, I found out by calling Portsmouth real estate assessor's office. It actually used to belong to a funeral home. They tore down the building and then built a new Aldi store. So there is a CVS right on the corner, but probably about a couple of blocks away, you can see a Harris Teeter grocery store. So I took off and went over to the one in Chesapeake. Now, that store was a little bit bigger than the one in Portsmouth, but they took over a Party City store. So they have the convenience of an established environment, they have a huge parking lot and stuff, but again, it really isn't something that I feel as though that is conducive for the Hilltop area. I think that it's going to be a traffic generator, not a traffic consumer, based on what the gentleman said earlier. We already have approximately 10 major grocery stores in the Hilltop area, and that doesn't include the Walmart store that's going to be put in where the old Kmart is. So a lot of this is, I think, unnecessary to go ahead and burden the corridor as it is right now with additional traffic coming and going through there. I feel as though that Aldi's is really riding on the coattails of the established businesses in the Hilltop area. Shame on them. I went ahead and looked at their website, and it says on here, for innovative retailers seek space for smart shoppers. Based on their specific location criteria, they want daily traffic count in excess of 20,000 vehicles per day. Well, if they are truly a traffic consumer in that, I don't think that they're really going to get that many cars in there to go ahead and sustain a grocery store. And
Thank you very
really
much for your
object.
comments.
Thanks.
Okay, next speaker.
That's all, Your Honor.
That's all of the speakers. Did Mr. Nutter desire a rebuttal? 3 minutes?
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate that.
Getting good with that clock.
You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. This is no laughing matter. We've met with these people. They are serious. They love their neighborhood. They love their corridor. There's no need to have aspirations against them at all. However, this is about a case where staff, and feel free to talk to your staff about their position, because the comp plan says this: the priority of uses that go into this corridor should be medical. It does not say the only uses should be medical. And as Mr. Wood knows, when the Princess Anne Corridor and the Princess Anne Hospital opened up, Mr. Moss, as you were there and watched that happen, that has consumed a large amount of the medical practices, the medical procedures that are occurring within this region are shifting. That's why we've seen a large amount of vacancies in this corridor. So that's kind of what we're seeing as a trend. Now, that in and of itself is not reason to act. It is, however, indication that the comp plan still has plenty of room in this process to allow uses other than just pure medical, particularly when we see a moving target with Princess Anne. So what's the next best thing? What do we do here? With a church that's been there between two uses, a church that has inconsistent uses with the Navy, a church that's met all the criteria of the businesses around them and that are happy with this, and the only objection is people further down the corridor who have to go through that corridor and are concerned about traffic. And I'll tell you, I understand that. If you live in Great Neck, I have it on Great Neck Road, I have it on First Colonial Road. That does not mean we stop development of that area. I can only imagine, Mr. Aaron, what would happen if you decided that because of the big traffic problem on Pacific and Atlantic Avenues, we should stop redevelopment of the hotel industry and the retail industry in that area. You should no more do that to this church than anything else. This is looking for an answer. It's looking for balance. That's why this store is small. That's why its hours are limited. And that's why your staff came to the conclusion that it did. Because the comp plan does say that it does support neighborhood uses, and that's exactly what the store is designed to do. Who would design a 5-aisle store to draw people competing with Total Wine, all the big stores? Kroger was in there, you got Harris Teeter in there, you've got Farm Fresh in there, you've got Fresh Market in there. No one's going to do that. This is designed to capture the people who are already in that corridor going down that street. So we thank you. We bring you, I think, a solution to a problem here. We point out that Mr. Wood has that this is at a stoplight. So this is not a site that's easy. You can't put residential here because of Navy restrictions. Churches are not.
Thank you.
Churches can be much bigger than
Thank
this
you
one.
very much.
So you get the idea. So thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Yeah. Mr. Wood,
What are the hours?
Ms. Wilson.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And they also, interesting enough, they shut off the lights of this facility 30 minutes after the end of that shift. All the lights go dark.
Thank you.
And how much
Okay, I was
traffic
going to
is
let
it
Mr. Wood
supposed
have
to?
Okay.
questions first if he wanted.
Sure, it would generate, based on the studies that they've done, it would generate, the customers they have on an average base, daily basis, between 550 and 650, which if you take that and if everybody had a car, it's about 600, so it'd be about 1,200 vehicle trips a day. But of that, 70 to 75% is traffic that's already on the road. So it's a far less, in fact, the other thing we do know is that medical and office both have higher parking requirements than this store will have. Will indicate to you that.
And what was the traffic from the church?
Sure. The church, in this case, is very low because it's waning.
It's been wound down, but before, when it was.
Before, you could have, as Mr. Wood will tell you, in that corridor, we have Spring Branch Church, we have the Wave Church, and this is a large, deep parcel.
We'll all just listen to, we're not going to interrupt the speaker. Thank you very much.
We've dealt with large churches in that region.
Thank you. Okay, we're all going to give consideration to the speaker, please. Mr. Wood, did you have a question for Mr. Nutter?
I've got a bunch of questions. Bob, did you have something?
Yeah, just a, question in terms of, I realize that it's very highly concentrated medical there, but a couple blocks away from this project, wasn't there a pre-existing farmer's market that has been there for probably predates a lot of the medical things there?
The farmer's market is about, I'd say, maybe 10 years old. It's been there before. It's after the hospital, but it's been a very successful, wonderful neighbor in that area and serves the residents of that area.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions besides Mr. Wood? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
All right, Mr. Wood.
Do I get a turn now?
Now you do. I've tried to give you one.
Mr. Nutter, there's a couple of things before I go into the discussion on this that some of the folks have brought up. Specifically, is there a rep from Aldi's here?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Happy to have him come up.
If you could, because I have some specific questions about the operation.
This is Jock Walls. He didn't sign a card. His office is in Richmond, but he's responsible for the stores in this area.
Mr. Nutter, would you
Thank you.
turn this way and tell me what his name is?
Welcome, Mr. Walsh.
Good evening. My name's Joshua Bowles.
Yeah, and I tell you, you don't need to do a
Okay.
presentation unless y'all want to hear something. I just have some specific questions, if
Okay,
that's okay.
questions. Thank you.
The question on delivery of the food, the big trucks and things like that, can you describe how that works?
Yes, sir. We bring in one truck a day. What we do is we have a distribution center where we bring all of our private label food down to. Right now, that's in Frederick, Maryland. We will be building one outside of Richmond. So it's very cost conscious. We bring one truck. It delivers everything from our fresh produce to our canned goods to our meats. And also we get a small truck of delivery every now and then of milk and alcohol.
And then how many employees are normally in the store?
Most stores have between 15 to 20.
So 15 to 20 employees inside at any given time?
No, that's the whole staff. Our stores operate, there's not a lot of people that come in at one time. It's very quick in and out, as you can tell from that Parham Road study at 500, 600 customers a day, usually 3 to 4 employees at a time.
The whole store?
Yes, part of our model is very cost conscious. We run things where the store associates, who are also the cashiers, are also stocking the trucks. I come from big box management, and I was very impressed 9 years ago when I started with Aldi. Took me a while to catch on to it, didn't really understand it. From 6 years in the service to big box management, I was used to having a lot of people on staff. All of a sudden, I go into this German model, and it actually works. Stores are very clean. We open on Thursday, a very similar corridor in Short Pump when you come to talk about income and traffic. And these employees, we can have 4 of them in there running the store at one time and keep it clean, keep and customers running through the checkout lanes. Right now, our model is that a customer comes up to the checkout lane. They cannot be past the checkout lane. If somebody is past that checkout lane, you have to bring another cashier up to get them out of there. Our biggest reason people come for us is our quality of our product and also the speed you get in and out of our store. Very European model with that. And it was mentioned before, if you don't mind me mentioning, that there's not a lot of German food in there. And the biggest reason is because we're not in Germany, we're in the United States. That we understood that our customer wants the food that they're used to here. However, we do German periods. We do a lot of special periods. We bring in that type of food during special buy weeks.
Other questions?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because I'm Kempsville, and I know you have one that way. Talk about the whole environmental friendly that you are, and about the shopping carts. How clean are your
We are
areas?
very conscious with the family, it's a private company. We're monitored a lot on our carbon footprint. All of our lights are LED, like Mr. Nutter mentioned, our lights turn off once the alarm is set 15 minutes after that. The gases we use in refrigeration we're monitored on. In fact, I get monitored on metric system every month about how much energy consumption is coming out. So we look at the building envelope, putting solar power on a lot of our stores. I'm actually doing a CO2 system in Richmond, which has a carbon footprint, I believe, of 1. And then also the carts is ingenious. I used to have 3 people on staff at a big box just to police the parking lot. We still have shopping carts all over the place. At Aldi, this is very European. You put a quarter in to get your shopping cart, and then you get your quarter back when you bring it back. If you don't have a quarter, you just ask for the cashier, you get it. You'd be amazed, there's no shopping carts in the parking lot. That allows our employees to keep the inside going. But one of the biggest initiatives that we really don't talk a ton about until here recently is how we're building, and also how we get our product.
Other questions? Okay, ready for a motion?
Well,
Are we?
I'm
So we can
getting there.
discuss? Thank you very much. Unless you have other questions.
Well, no, I kind of want to discuss before I do a motion because
Okay.
I'm working this through.
All right. Thank you very
much,
much.
Mr. Wells. And I certainly appreciate everybody who's come out here on both sides, and certainly the folks that I've met with a couple of times, including yesterday, yesterday afternoon. That was very productive, and I appreciate that. These are always tough decisions. This is an extraordinarily tough decision on this. As you read in the staff write-up, the underlying zoning on this is residential. But as you also know, it's in the greater than 75. So, and I know one of the gentlemen here made a comment about, the ACUs and the importance of it, and whether it's just a guideline and that sort of thing. But I think everybody on council realizes that the ACU's guidelines are not a guideline. They are part of the code, and it's something that we have to live with. So while the underlying zoning is residential, it's R15 residential. It's a 3-acre site, so it would be difficult to do anything by right, and anybody wanting to develop that would want to increase density, which clearly would trigger the Navy saying no, so that's problematic. The church, frankly, would not be permitted today, and of course, that church goes back to, I saw 1963 in here, so I guess it was 1950, according to what Mr. Nutter said, but it certainly goes back a long time, certainly before a lot of the development there. And then we talk about the comp plan, and I agree with what a lot of people say about the comp plan and whether or not it needs some revision or guidance or what have you on it, because, it does make good reference to medical, but it also makes reference to things that frankly can't go in here according to ACUs. And it's shame on all of us. When I talked to the folks yesterday about it, I asked them how many had come out to the comp plan hearings, and I know the answer. I was the only one there. And that's understandable. I mean, people just don't come out for those sorts of things, and it's not their fault. It's not anybody's fault. But, I drive that way several times a week, and I just never really paid attention to the vacancies and things like that going on until I started doing research. And Ms. Wincoop is here, and we had a discussion about this yesterday about the availabilities in the market there. And Mr. Burke kind of alluded to it when he talked about the difficulty in finding tenants. And the data that I got said anywhere from 12 to 30% vacancy rate. Ms. Wincoop had something that said 4%. And then I actually got another, I think a much more accurate representation that says it's about 12 12.5%. But the interesting thing on this is when you look at the vacancy rates for these offices in that area, they're on the market for 26 months on average. And that's a long time. And that's in this data here. So that's kind of an interesting thing, and that does give me pause about the viability of medical office in that area. And I know that one of the people that called up that said they were opposed to it was a medical office. They called me and told me how bad it was. I called them back and told them about this meeting coming up, and they said, well, we're moving. So that kind of shows you how that works. There's been an incredible amount of outreach by the applicant. There's been 4 meetings, there's been emails to every complaint that I've received. Every email I've gotten, I've referred it to the applicant because I wanted them to reach out because I knew this one was going to be very difficult. And then when I take a look at these, my criteria on any of these rezonings, it starts off with no one's entitled to a rezoning. No one's entitled to a rezoning. And you look at, can the existing use remain? Yeah, the existing use can remain as a church. I've confirmed with the city attorney and the planning staff. Yeah, somebody could move into the church as is, make no modifications whatsoever. But they could move into the church as is and start that. That's a 3-acre site. It's not likely that a church would want to move in and keep only that space. So we would quickly be faced with an expansion of a non-compatible use within that area, and that would be a problem. Can the by right use be used? Well, the by right use is residential, and we know that we can't do that. So then we look at it, and I wrote it down because Mr. O'Cady said it the best. He said, do the residents lose or the businesses lose? And I'm paraphrasing what you said, but that's essentially what you said. And what is the impact of the rezoning on the neighbors? The traffic is bad. Absolutely, the traffic is bad. Unfortunately, in Virginia Beach, you do not have the corner on that market. Traffic is bad everywhere. I've got a segment that I took a look at that lists every road section in the city, and you guys are 21 out of 400 and some odd segments. So not the worst, certainly not the best. And yeah, it's to get beyond level of service E, you have to drop down into the hundreds before we get out of, before we get to any good traffic there. So it's a mess. This applicant is proposing to do it at a signal between some major buildings directly across. And if you take a look at this document, it's probably the best one to look at to see where things are. That's a little fuzzy there. It does show you that you've got 2 major banks on the corner there, and that's certainly not a medical use. It is a small footprint for a huge parcel. And I think that's pretty important. 3 acres of anything else, they're going to take up a good bit of it. If you look at this, there's an awful lot of open space, and that's I think that's positive. Expanding this road, it's just not possible without condemning a ton of property up and down here, and at that point, it would probably be the most expensive road in the city. So that's a problem as well. Now, we do know, and we had this discussion a week or so ago, that Laskin Road and First Colonial up to Republic Road is finally moving off of the inactive list and is coming forward, and that'll start. And that's First Colonial Road's part of a system, so it's one part of the system that will be improved. Is it going to correct your level of service from an E to a D? I don't know, maybe, but it's not going to dramatically improve it. So, having said all that, it's a tough one. I've been playing with this all night, trying to figure out which way I'm going to go on it. That's why, Ms. Henley, I didn't want to come out and make a motion, because I'm sitting there talking to myself as I go through this. And I would say at this point, I'm going to move for approval, and based on what I've said. And I'll tell you, I've been to an Aldi's. No offense, Mr. Walls, it's nothing to write home about. It's not something that I would go out of my way to visit. I understand the business model, but it's not that.
Okay, fine, thank you. All right, I believe that's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Dyer made a motion to approve. Is there any discussion? Mr. Woods said a lot, and we listened.
Sorry.
And we're all wrestling with it now, but we'll call for the question.
Mrs. Wilson, may I have your, we have 6-2 with the abstentions of the mayor, Mr. Davenport, Mrs. Wilson, and vice mayor. Mrs. Wilson,
Okay,
did I have your name?
can I have this now?
You may,
Thank you very much.
Your
We'll now move to,
Your Honor, may I ask Mrs. Wilson, I thought I had a letter of abstention.
excuse me?
Mrs. Wilson,
What?
I thought I had a letter of abstention.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll now move to appointments. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate to the Clean Community Commission Julie Searcy, to the Historical Review Board Debbie Bright and Kimberly Rizzo, to the Human Rights Commission Ian Leaches, to the Historic Preservation Commission Harriet Friend.
Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll call for the question, please.
I assume they reflected what was said, because I didn't hear a thing.
I was listening.
What
Okay,
did you?
Vote of 11-0.
very good.
Now we get the.
Is there any unfinished business?
Open mic?
Is there any new business?
No, Mr. Mayor.
We'll close the formal session, and we will have open mic once we hear the television cameras are turned off.
Yes, sir.
And speakers will be limited to 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers on one subject, please.
We have 6 speakers in there.